Before we start our very first topic for accelerated math, we want to make sure that we look at this pre-topic, a couple things we need to review before we move on. So here with our pre-topic, we're going to look at ordering and comparing integers. We are also going to look at if we can represent integers on a number line. So place those integers on a number line. So everything that that I write down and that you see on my video, I need for you to write down on your Cornell notes. So if we look at what the definition of an integer is, well, it consists of a counting number and the opposites of those counting numbers, as well as the number 0. So let's go ahead and look at some examples here. If I want to think of a counting number, we could think of the number 4 as my counting number. We could think of the number 22 as my counting number. So those are counting numbers. Okay, they're whole numbers. As well as then we have to add in there our opposites. And let's think about the opposite of up is down, good. Opposite of left is right. Well, what do we think the opposite of that positive 4 is? You got it. The opposite would be a negative 4. And the opposite of a positive 22 would be a negative 22. So we are looking at our opposites. We are looking at our counting numbers. And then we can't forget, we can also include 0 in this mix. So when we compare them, we are going to use some symbols to compare them. So this first symbol that we have is the greater than. And so let's put an example on both sides here. An example could be that 5 is greater than 1. The next symbol is what we call the less than. And when we look at this, let's think of an example where we can say 1 is less than 10. And then our last example, we should know that symbol. And this symbol represents our equal to. And when we do an example of that, and you could probably come up with your own example there, I'm just going to say negative 7 is equal to negative 7. So those are examples of how we would compare. And so when we get ready to look at our number line here, and when we get ready to compare numbers, we should know that our negative numbers are going to be smaller than our positive numbers. Let's go ahead and look at the number line. I want to add some numbers onto my number line. I placed the 0 there for you. We know this is going to be the number 1, and then we have the number 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and the number line goes on and on and on and on forever. So we could keep going. And then on the left side of the 0, and if you think about temperature, let's think about if it was 0 degrees outside, what would be less than 0 degrees? Well, we would have a negative 1. And even colder than that would be a negative 2. And even colder than that would be a negative 3 and a negative 4. So I always like to kind of think of temperature. And I also really like to think about money when I'm trying to put my numbers in order or to compare them. So I want to talk about which numbers are least and which numbers are the greatest. So our numbers on the left of our number line, these are going to be our least. These are going to be smaller. And these are going to be our greater numbers. So the numbers, they got a little sloppy. So the numbers on towards the right are going to be our bigger numbers, our numbers that are greater. So when we're comparing them, if the number is on the left, it would be smaller than the number that is on the right. Let's go ahead and I want to place a couple numbers on my number line. If I gave you the number 2 and the number -3 and the number 5 and the number 1, would you be able, let's go ahead and just label these as A, B, C, and D. Would you be able to place those on my number line? Well, the number 2 is going to go right where the 2 is, and we can label that A. And the -3 is going to go right where the -3 is, and we can label that B. And we could say here that B is less than A. -3 is less than the number 2. C is 5, so we can put our C here. And our D is a +1, and so we can put our D right there. So our goal for today is to be able to say which numbers are bigger or smaller, and then also to be able to place them on the number line. So we'll do some practice with that. That's it.